Hello, sisters. Welcome to the Sacred Medicine Podcast, weaving powerful, soulful practices into functional medicine. Step into this beautiful space of devotion and explore everything from nurturing foods, rituals, sexuality, and awakening your innate sensuality. It is time to own your radiance. This is the Sacred Medicine Podcast. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Sacred Medicine Podcast. I am your host, Margaret Romero, and I am so happy to be back officially. Things are on the regular schedule again, so thank you so much for your patience throughout the last few weeks, which have been, just a whirlwind. So this week I have Eva Clay. She is a sex and love expert, and we had an amazing conversation of topics that me as a single woman talk about all the time with my girlfriends who are single as well. And one of them is talking about casual sex. And this is something that comes up just so much. I mean, it's just a topic of discussion for so many women, right? And so I wanted to just bring you some of Eva's wisdom to the forefront so you can kind of make your own decision the next time this sort of thing comes up again for you. You know, should I or shouldn't I? So we really talk very deeply about this. And so I just can't wait for you to hear. We also start talking about cougars and how, it used to be that you would see older men with younger women and that was so acceptable. And now the norm is becoming the opposite. We're seeing older women with younger men, which I totally love and support on many levels. And it's just something that we talk about. Also, we get down deep and dirty into cougar life and how it just is a win-win for the men and women involved. So I love that. And then we also talk about playing small and how to find big love and how to stop playing small. And so we really dive deep there as well. And, there's a subtle belief, she says, that if I'm too powerful, no man will love me. And I think when it comes to women who we are the rising power consciousness, and I think more and more women, as we become more accustomed and comfortable with our power, we are just starting to see a shift there in relationships. And sometimes we can actually be a little too powerful for men, maybe, you know what I mean? And I have certainly experienced this as well, where I feel on a date, I almost have to downplay who I am and my accomplishments. And of course, I never go on a date as if it were an interview because nobody really wants that. So we talk all about what to say, not to say to men and on a date, and how to be powerful and in your power, yet still have that sort of feminine flair to the whole thing. And you guys know how much I love being in my feminine. And, if it's an interview style kind of date, that's completely in your masculine. So we're both against anything of the sort. So there's so much more to this conversation that we had and we shared. And it was hands down one of the best interviews I have done. And I just love Eva. I just love her. I love her. I love how she expresses herself. I love her wisdom. She's just awesome on so many levels. I can't wait for you to hear this interview. So, on to the show. Welcome back to another episode of the Sacred Medicine Podcast. I am your host, Margaret Romero, and today we have Eva Clay. Eva, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's my pleasure.
Eva is a sex and love expert, and I just had to have her on the show. I came across her blog after I heard you. It was on some kind of summit. I can't even begin to tell you which one, because I know that I've seen your name in a few different places. And I went on your website, I read some of your blogs, and I just love what you stand for. So why don't we just jump right into a couple of big themes that I find kind of circulating within like my circle of girlfriends, that seem to be a really popular question. One is all about casual sex. And, and even I have toyed with this, me being single, a single woman, casual sex, there's always kind of like a tug of like, should I, shouldn't I? It's always like an inner struggle. And so I would love to hear your thoughts around casual sex.
Yeah, this is a great question. And it's something that I get a whole lot of questions from women about. And I think right now we're in a period of history where our roles are shifting, our relatedness is shifting due to technology and the shift of culture. And so the rules about sex are in transition. And basically, none of us know what we're doing. We're really fumbling in the dark trying to discern what feels organically good in our bodies, what feels appropriate given our cultural frame and our context, and what empowers us. And so this question about casual sex, for me, is really about defining what sex means to you. Esther Perel talks about sex having a multiplicity of meanings for all of us. Some of us look to sex for escape, some for comfort, some for enlivening, and some look to sex as a place to live out roles or archetypes that they're not able to live out in ordinary life. So I think it's important to first define, what are you looking for in a sexual encounter? What are you hoping for? What is your fantasy? And what ultimately brings you more power? And start from there. I often define casual sex, after 20 years of working with women and seeing feminine sexuality up close, casual sex means sex that doesn't have meaning or depth. Sex that did not offer an opportunity of transcendence or an opportunity to come closer to God because of the experience. Conversely, we can have a one-night stand with a complete stranger, and it can be a transcendent, spiritual, profound experience, right? So it's really about what meaning we're bringing to the experience and the context of our lives in which it happens.
Got it. And so when a woman decides, she meets somebody and she decides that there's like so much chemistry and this is something that she wants to do. And when you mentioned what brings you more power, I think I can almost see this in two different ways. Because if a woman's like, I'm a powerful woman, and if what I want tonight is to hook up with somebody, and I find someone that there's a mutual, chemistry, there's an attraction there, and she goes for what she wants, is she considered then in her power?
Yeah, this is a great question. And this is why I am a little conservative about naming casual sex good or bad or right or wrong. It's more about where the intention comes from. Where's the motivation emanating from? And I'll bet, Margaret, that in your group of girlfriends, and probably in your own life as well, there have been moments when it seemed like a good idea and it seemed like it would be an act of empowerment to enter a field of pleasure and connection with somebody. And then after the experience, it was a disempowering process. So either we get overly attached or hooked on a guy, and then our hearts are broken. Or we later come to regret the decision. And looking back, we see with more clarity where it was really coming from. So I think for women, the most important piece here is to really marry your sex with your discernment, your second chakra with your sixth chakra, with your ajna, your third eye. And be very, very clear and deliberate and intentional when it comes to the act of lovemaking. Now, I will say this, and this I think is what you pulled from a blog that I wrote, a very popular blog that I wrote on this topic of, can women have casual sex? And that is my belief that there is no such thing as casual sex. Sex is never casual. In my book, sex is a deep, sacred, profound act. Does that mean we should have sex with everyone we meet? No. Does it mean we should have one night stands if that's not powerful for us? No. It also doesn't mean that we need to abstain or repress our sexuality in any way. But when we see sex as truly a communication, an expression of a form of sacred love, then we can stand firmly within that philosophy. And if an experience is offered to us, if sex is offered to us, and it doesn't feel honoring, it doesn't feel respectful or sacred, then we get to make an informed decision about that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, women have a different class of neurochemicals and hormones that are released in the brain and the body after lovemaking and during lovemaking than men do. So, and we know this, right? Like, women have a different emotional relationship to the act of lovemaking. And I think taking that into account is really important. Now, I know many women, friends of mine, who will say, you know what, it's just not a good idea for me. It never turns out well. I have casual sex. I think it's going to be fine. I think I'm not going to get attached. And I do. And it turns into a drama. And so they know they've developed a boundary for themselves. They know where their threshold is, and they know how to take care of themselves. And I think that is an empowered stance. I also know women who have no issue having sex quickly with someone and having no expectation or attachment afterwards.
Right.
And I feel like that's an empowering stance as well.
Right.
Kind of like what you're saying.
I wonder, as a woman gets older, and older, I mean 40s, 50s compared to 20s, 30s, does the amount of oxytocin decrease? And are women more able to sort of have casual sex without having that attachment issue happen? Do you know?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, this is really interesting. I've been doing a lot of research into this about what happens with this, the sexual chemistry. I call it the pleasure cocktail, with a cocktail in a woman's body as she ages. And now understand this, that our minds and our bodies are connected. You know this.
Right.
Your listeners know this. And it's a complex interplay of psychology and psychobiology when it comes to sex. And this is why we will never know it all. And it's such a fascinating topic for me. It's, a lifelong study. And I still feel like I have so much to learn. This interplay is a mystery. So if we look at every woman as like a pie chart, pie graph, and there are different factions of her life that come into confluence with each other and inform her emotional and physical body. So part of that pie chart are her hormones. And one thing I always emphasize in my programs is how our hormones really do shape our reality, strongly shape our reality. And I think there's been a lack of influence about this, lack of education. And when you're talking about oxytocin, there's no measurable dip in the release of oxytocin as a woman ages and she encounters an intimate experience, a loving experience, whether that be sex or holding a child or looking at a puppy. There is a discernible difference in the level of estrogen in her body. And some of the interesting things about estrogen that are not often talked about is how estrogen drives a woman's need for belonging. Let's think about this in terms of evolutionary psychology, which I'm a big fan. Mm-hmm. That when a woman is fertile and she has higher levels of estrogen, it is more important for her to be accepted and cared for by a tribe and by a male protector because she could bear a child. You know, from the single act of lovemaking, she could become pregnant.
Right.
And so nature has this wired in her to seek approval, to seek acceptance, to seek belonging, to seek love. And so when a younger woman has sex, she's got higher levels of estrogen. And so her sense of attachment or her, I'll say neediness for then follow-up and continued relationship with that man is much greater.
I see.
Now, you might have noticed, and your listeners might have noticed also, that when a woman approaches menopause, let's say from 45 to 55, a very interesting thing happens. She stops caring as much what other people think of her. This is the time in life when women say, fuck it, I'm going to start that business I always wanted to, or screw it, I'm going to wear this outfit. I don't care how I look like anymore. I'm just going to live my life. And I once had a friend say the world should be run by postmenopausal women because they stop giving a fuck. And it's a very powerful time in a woman's life. And I attribute this to, in part, the decline of estrogen. Because estrogen drives us to belong and to conform in order to belong.
Oh, I see.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's interesting. And so, is there a correlation then with women? I really don't like the term cougar, but older women who prefer younger men. Is there a correlation there with, estrogen levels for her?
It could be. It could be. Yeah, there's no real science around this. I think it would be great if somebody did a cougar study. I would love to read this research. But certainly, I think there's a kind of match made in heaven there with cougars and younger men, and that is the men get to enjoy the company of a woman who is not only mature and experienced, but who also places very little expectation on them. So I think part of what we've seen in the rise of the cougar movement,
right,
I'll call it, is a cofactor of the rise of men who are seeking purpose, the rise of men who are without purpose, young men who are without purpose, who are without means, who are without a job, and without a sense of real meaning and value in society. This is the state of masculinity today. That with the rise of women in the workplace. So women who are breadwinners, women who are high earners and high achievers. And then couple that with women who are beyond childbearing years. So we have a whole lot of really powerful women who are enjoying the company of these younger men.
Right.
Who aren't looking to them for a baby or are looking to them for financial support in any way. And it's kind of a good match.
Yeah, I would say. because I think
I highly recommend it, actually. Not a bad idea.
there's a lot of men who tell me, who are in their 40s now, who have told me that when they were younger, they had a phase of going and dating older women when they were younger. And this I've heard from several men. So it's just interesting to me that that they've gone through a phase, and then the older women go through. I don't know if it's just a phase or if it goes into their 60s and beyond. But we have clearly seen even celebrities who are, have joined the ranks of cougar style lifestyles with younger boyfriends.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I kind of think it's about time, because for I don't know how long we've held this double standard that it's perfectly permissible for older men to be dating younger women. And in fact, it can be quite fashionable to do so.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm happy to see that there's been some equity and some balance in this, and let the cougars have their day and celebrate it.
I love that. I love that. Personally, I'm someone that, well, how would you define a cougar? Is it just a divorced woman who's in her, I don't even know what age. Is
And
it
there's
40s?
there's some debate about this, because I've heard that women in their 40s are being called pumas. So they're sort of like in the cougar warm up, but that it's really women who are around 50 and above, 50 and after, in the cougar club. Now, look, we're making it up as we go. So this is just my guess at what the cultural conversation is now about it. But I think it's a mature woman who enjoys the company of younger men,
Right.
of which she has every right to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely seeing the rise in that. And I think that it's possible that the fact that celebrities are doing it so, it's so free for them, that it kind of almost gives us permission that, oh yeah, it's, if there's a 20-year age difference, that it's not that big of a deal anymore.
Mhm. Yeah.
So let's see here. I wanted to also talk to you about, there was another article that you had on here that I love too, because this is something that I personally am really, it just really resonated with me. And that was something the blog you called "To Find Big Love, Stop Playing Small."
Mm.
And I'd love to just hear you jam about this and kind of your thoughts around this, and how women can stop playing small, and how we are playing small in relationships and meeting men, what we're doing that's creating this, I don't know. I'm not sure if you mean when we playing small by just picking men that are inappropriate. So I'd love for us to just talk about this.
Yeah, good one. Good question. Yeah, I wrote that blog because really coming from my own experience, and then working with, therapeutically, I'm a psychotherapist and a coach. So working with women over 20 years, and really feeling into this undercurrent of belief. Now, this is a deep and subtle belief for many of us, because although we're sort of brandishing this empowered woman face to the world, that underneath there's still a conversation happening about not being more powerful than men. And the belief is that if I'm too powerful, no man will love me.
Mm.
And for your listeners, I encourage you to look really deeply within and see if any part of that is ever true for you. I know for me, I'm a highly educated, successful, very sophisticated woman, and also a feminist. So I believe that I was beyond any beliefs such as this, that I was fully owning my power in the world. And what I realized is that I went through a divorce just before I turned 40 and entered the dating world again. And it was quite a shocking experience, to be honest with you. Um, Very painful also to try and figure out what it is to date in the 21st century. And I realized that on some levels I was dimming my power because I wanted to stay marriable, because I wanted another partner and another marriage in my life. And I had this belief that if I got too big, too powerful, too successful, too masterful, that I wouldn't be wanted. And what I learned is that actually the opposite is true. Now, I've watched women for over 20 years, myself included. I want to watch very carefully on who develops deep long-term partnership and who doesn't. Who are the women that end up attracting their soulmate, their ideal partner, and ride off into the sunset, or to whatever ideal that they're holding in their life? And it's the women who are operating at full power. It's the women who are, what I mean by that is the women who are walking in divine alignment with their purpose. Women who are walking in divine alignment with their purpose. This is how we attract our soulmate. Because when we're in divine alignment, we are our most powerful, we are our most successful, we are our most radiant and beautiful and magnetic.
Yeah.
So I always say to women that if you really want to attract your beloved, and you're very serious about that, rock your life. Make that your priority, to be the most powerful, the most authentic expression of who you really are. And that's when he finds you. And not only that's when he finds you, that's when your perfect partner appears. Because you want a man who's vibrating at your level, right?
Right.
Like we want a man who matches us, who meets us on that level. And we're only going to attract him when we're on that level, when we're vibrating at our highest frequency.
I was going to say that there have been many times where I may meet someone on a date, and he's asking me about me and what I do. And then I, start talking about, telling him what I do and all these things. And it seems as if he becomes really disinterested if he is not in his power and I am accomplished and successful, and he has not reached his peak, or he hasn't found his place in the world yet. I've noticed this. Did you ever notice that when you were dating?
Absolutely.
And so then I can see him, I can visually actually see him sort of deflate in front of me. And I know that, and it's never gone on to like a second or third date after that, because I feel way more powerful and have my shit together on a completely different level than he is. And then for me, that wouldn't be a good match. And so that's good to know, on the first date. And, okay, if it doesn't go on the second or third date, okay, no big deal. But I will say that sometimes I'll definitely admit that I almost have to like really tone it down. I have to just not shine so bright, because if not, he'll run away. And so, and I don't want to do that. I mean, why? Why do that? So can you say a little something about that? Because I know that a lot of the women listening are also super successful. They're entrepreneurs. They, have their own business, or even not, but they're still very successful, and they've just got their shit together. And then they meet these guys that just are, that don't. And yeah, granted, that could just not be a match, and you move on and date somebody else. You just keep dating. But I would love for you to just speak on that, because I know for me, this is way more common than it was even, I don't know, 10 years ago or something like that. Obviously, I've grown substantially from 10 years ago myself in every way, professionally as well. So I can see that there are men who, I personally even know men, or even the ones that I know via social media, who have their shit together, who are like magnificently accomplished on so many levels. And for me, like that, I find extremely attractive. And yet I don't seem to really find those types of men often. Those are definitely, I feel, few and far between. Though I live in New York, close to New York City. I mean, they've got to be everywhere. Yet the ones that I meet just, as of late have just been somewhat suboptimal. I hate saying that word, but it's true.
Okay. It's okay. Thank you for this question, because it allows me to make a distinction. And first of all, I just want to validate your experience and the experience of all your listeners, or many, many of your listeners who will agree to this. Now, I remember in the 5 years I was single after my divorce, this is like 38 to 43 or something like this. And those were really hard years. And I used to come to my girlfriends and say, where are the good men? Where are they? Like, has somebody round them up and put them on an island in the middle of the Pacific somewhere? Like, just like literally, where are they? And by good men, I should say the men who have their shit together.
Yeah.
And I found that the men who did have their shit together had their choice of any 20-something-year-old. And here I was in my early 40s dating, and the men my age were dating women who were 28. And the men who were interested in me were 50 and over. And this is because the men who are higher functioning today, I think, have more choices. Like they have it's a market issue. They have their pick of the market. It's a seller's market. And I would come to my girlfriends, my spiritual girlfriends, and they would say to me like, oh, it's law of attraction. If you say there are no good men, there won't be any good men, and you attract your vibrational match, and on and on and on. And I would just say, ladies, I get that, but I think you're missing something here. Like there's a real decline in the market of available men who have their shit together. And I'm not imagining this. So I've done a lot of research about this. And I just want to say it's actually true. Women, powerful, high functioning women today have fewer choices in powerful, high functioning men. That is just the reality. Statistically, that is true. Women are surpassing men on every level, on levels of income, education, employment, on and on down the line. There's a wonderful TED Talk about this called The End of Men. I recommend
Oh my God, this sounds awful.
Okay, let me give you the good news. Let me give you the good news.
Okay.
You only need one.
That's true.
You only need one. You just need, one man who matches you. And I'm going to tell you what to do on a date when you meet a man and you're sharing who you are. And I'm going to tell you a way to do this without emasculating him or overwhelming him. Because this is the mistake a lot of women make.
Okay.
I made this myself big time for years until I learned. Men need to be needed.
Yes.
The masculine looks for a soft place to put itself.
Mm.
The masculine looks to penetrate. And what powerful, high functioning women have forgotten largely is their femininity. And so when we go on a date with a man and we share our resume, um, it's not giving him a place to put himself. Uh, Men are in an interesting dilemma because their psychology, their biology, their physiology says they need to be needed in the tribe in order to feel valued and in order to feel good about themselves. That's where they draw their power, is by feeling their value in the tribe.
Right.
And so most women today actually don't need men. We don't need men. We don't need men in the ways that we used to. We can do everything on our own. We can have a baby on our own. We can support ourselves financially. We can buy a house on our own. In fact, there are more female homeowners in the country than there are male.
Mm.
And that's rising rapidly. So when a man encounters a powerful woman, no matter how together he is, and she doesn't offer a place for him in her life, if he doesn't sense, oh, this is how I can serve her, this is how I can help her, this is how she needs me, then he will likely not feel attracted, and he will likely diminish in the face of that. So it's not really about, and I've talked to many, many, many men about this, great teachers of masculinity about this, and it's not really that he feels diminished by your power. It's that he feels diminished by the fact that you have no place for him.
Mm. Okay, so, okay, well then, I mean, when he asks, like, well, what do well, what do you do? What do you do for work? And I tell him, or do I not tell him everything? Do I just tell him a little bit? Because how can you? Because then I feel like I'm denying who I really am if I don't say. I mean, I'm not going to say, "Look, this is where I went to school," unless he asks. But that's not where I don't lead with any of that. I don't.
Awesome. That's
I
good.
I don't talk about any of that stuff, and I usually try to keep things really casual and just sort of slightly vague. Just I'm in the medical professional and used to be an ER nurse, and I have a podcast, and I don't go into depth about really because I could, all as women we have pages to our resume. I'm sure, of the things that we have done, experienced, how many degrees we have, how many businesses we've owned, sold, whatever it is. I mean, we really could have lists here. And so I keep things really to the minimum. But sometimes even the minimum is a little daunting for them. And so then I get what you're saying, forget the resume. And I that's not something that I do anyway. But what else are we really trimming down? Sort of who we are? How do we have them feel like we need them for something?
Mm-hmm. Great question. I'm flashing back again to validate what you're saying, your question, what you're saying. I'm flashing back to when I was single. I met a guy in the park. Okay. And I don't often meet men in in public places. It's like, we're mostly meeting men online or
Right.
through friends of friends or at a gathering of some sort. So I met this random guy in the park. We started a great conversation. He seemed really good looking, really nice, etc. And he asked if he could take me to dinner. I got my number. I said yes. We went to dinner, another day. And sitting at dinner, asked what I did. I told him I'm a psychologist and a counselor, and that's what I do. And I could see him diminish. I could see him diminished simply within the first 5 minutes of us sitting down and saying, so what do you do? As soon as he learned my profession, he was out. It was over for him. And I later found out that he's a car mechanic. He's an auto mechanic, which, had no slight on auto mechanics whatsoever. But he felt a difference in the strata, in the social strata between us.
Mm-hmm.
That I felt this from him. I could read it, that he felt that I was above him. And I'm going to say in those cases, these aren't your guys. These aren't your guys.
Right.
And that's okay. We didn't have a second date, and I probably wouldn't have been into it either. And I know he definitely wasn't. I think he ran out of the restaurant actually when it was over. Like, he couldn't get away from me fast enough.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So we need to be willing on some level to let these guys go.
Yeah, exactly.
On the other level. Okay, on another level. Let's say you're sitting with a man that you're very interested in. He is got his shit together, he's educated, and you tell him what you do, and you sense some diminishment on his end. This is what I want you to remember. Men are attracted to the quality of radiance you hold in your body. Men are attracted to the level of pleasure that they can see evidenced running through your body. Most men really are not that interested in your profession or your resume. And if you are shining your heart light, if you are in your full feminine receptivity, if you're running pleasure in every single cell of your body from the minute you meet, literally what you say about your career, your profession is going to go in one ear and out the next.
Right.
So I think even more important than this conversation about how do I phrase what I do without him getting intimidated, to me, the question is, how do I show up to this experience of the date, holding as much pleasure as I can possibly tolerate inside my body?
Yes, I love that. But okay, so let's say we are, which is a topic that we talk about on the podcast, because I love having women really honing back in and really tapping back into their feminine before going on that date, and really not going from work to a date, because we're still in that masculine, in our masculine essence so strongly that it almost is like two penises meeting for dinner. And so we've talked about this multiple times on the podcast. So I get all of that, and sort of what you're talking about, and having the pleasure in your body, and that sort of radiating out, and he can feel that. But what about, because the truth is, yes, we don't necessarily, quote unquote, need men for, a roof over our heads or anything like that, because we have been providing for ourselves for a long time. How, in that, is he in his mind during that first date seeing if he can fit into our lives, that we are in some way, shape, or form needing him?
Yes. Both. Yeah. For most men, in unconscious ways. And I would say that it's even more of an energetic. So most men would probably say they're not sitting across from a woman on a first date and wondering, where does she need me in her life? But a woman who is presenting herself as like, I've got it all together. I own a home. I have a career. I have a this. I have a that. I'm solid. Yeah, I'm solid. Well, it's not that it's not good. It's like, I don't think we need to necessarily censor that or hold it back or dim ourselves in any way.
Right.
But if he's hearing like, oh, this woman's got it all together. Great. She's great. She's beautiful and really together and successful. But he is usually what they'll say is, I don't really feel any chemistry. That's how most men will organize the experience of not feeling needed. I don't really feel any chemistry, and it's because there's not polarity. And so I love helping women. This is one of my favorite topics. I love helping women to establish polarity and operating from their feminine and being the powerful, badass sisters that they are.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I love your suggestion of not going on a date after work, straight from work, but like maybe having a goddess bath beforehand and really
Right.
moving into a sensual, receptive space.
Yes.
Hmm. And I want your listeners to think about, because I'm very pragmatic, okay, and I'm very strategic, so I like to give direct, concrete examples. I want your listeners to consider using some of these phrases when they're dating. Um, so let's say he asks you, "So what do you do for a living?" And you say, "Well, I'm an ER nurse." Your next phrase can also express what's available in you, what you're longing for, what's yet unmet. And what might be unmet is, "Oh, I'm an ER nurse, but I would love to spend more time painting.
Mm.
And what I really love is medicine, and I would love to go back to school and learn more."
Okay.
So you're expressing a sense of feminine yearning that is irresistible to a man, magnetic to a man, because here's an opening. Here's an opening for him.
I got it. Okay. I love
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
Because there are so many, we have, as women, so many desires. They're just in us, and we're always creating them or trying to fulfill them. And being able to talk about those, I think, this is what you're talking about, is just being able
Hmm.
to, yes, express it.
And it's expressing the emotional body. So let's take a different scenario. He says, "What do you do for a living?" You say, "I'm an ER nurse. And, oh, God, I love healing people. It's my most favorite thing in the whole world to do." There's an opening for him. Oh, that's interesting. Wow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It leaves a place for him to ask a question, a place for him to put himself, a place for him to investigate where he might help you in that regard. Because that's what he's looking for. How can he be your hero?
Right. Exactly.
Hmm.
So this is so great. This is so great. I hope people are writing notes for their next date, because I think that, and even that bath beforehand, or I've also talked about doing a little, well, one of my things is that I love doing sensual dance. So even dropping into my body for even just one song before a date or while I'm getting ready, that just really, like, I can sense, I've done both sort of research. I've gone right from work to meet somebody without doing anything, and I feel like I'm still at work. And then it's like an interview process, and the whole thing sucks.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Or I'll come home, drop in to my feminine, do the dance, get ready, just really get really into my feminine space and clear out the masculine. And I see a huge difference in how receptive they are to me. And even I just become so much more flirtatious, and so many, it's just so different. Because when I don't do that, and I've just come from work, or I'm at the office, or I've been doing even just work from home all day and just really in my masculine energy, it's definitely, I need to break that, because that what doesn't really go away unless you sort of have some kind of little something that you're doing.
Pleasure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Any form of pleasure does the trick. Yeah, I love what you're saying. Absolutely. This is true. And, it's also true for women who are partnered. Um, it's like we don't just stop relating to our men once we marry them. Like then the relating gets real, and we can also infuse these elements of relating into our partnership with our beloved. And And I work with many couples where the woman has forgotten to let him be the hero.
Mm.
We forget that, and women are so competent, and our world is an interesting place right now because we in the West are still living under patriarchy, or most of the world is living under patriarchy, and yet technology and industry is becoming increasingly feminine. And that the skill set that men have that women don't are mostly skills that come from physical strength in the body. But in terms of intellect and capacity, women can do it all.
Right.
And we're such proficient multitaskers. We're good at pretty much everything, right? And that's because we're mothers. So nature made us like superhuman because we bear children, we have babies. So women can outdo men on many, many fronts. And this is coming into collision with the masculine fixation on competency. And I think on a wide level in the collective unconscious, there is already a terror, a real fear that the masculine is holding about his ability to rise and meet the feminine.
Mm.
And, Alison Armstrong talks about this, that men typically will not attempt something that they don't believe they can win. So if they're staring into the chasm, they're staring into the abyss and going, God, there's very little chance I'm actually going to make it across. They
Right.
probably won't attempt.
Right. Right.
And if you represent that chasm for them, if you represent an unattainable goal, an unattainable level of prosperity, or an unattainable level of intelligence or competency in any way, the man is more likely to turn around and not call you for a second date. If you make meeting you achievable and doable for him, he's more likely to stay engaged, and that the connection will create chemistry. So how do you make it doable for him? We have to give him ladders to meet us.
Okay.
And that comes from not dimming ourselves and not diminishing in any way, but by promoting him, but by reinforcing him, by stroking him, by praising him, by welcoming him. Marianne Williamson once said this, and I'll never forget it. She said, invite your king to ascend the throne. Invite your king to ascend to the throne.
I love that.
So creating a welcoming, loving, and an unconditionally approving space for a man to meet you. And he will want to. He will naturally feel motivated to. But we've got to make it achievable.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
It's a lot.
It's a lot, but you know what? This is really good. And I love these little strategies too, just things that we can think about on our next date. Or even when, even for the women that are married, their hubbies. So any last, I can't believe we're coming down to the wire here. Any last things that you would like to add?
Yes. Be patient with yourself. Be compassionate with yourself through this. Relating is an art and a skill. And more women are needing to learn how to relate skillfully with men. And, we forget, we won't necessarily get what we want just by dating by default, relating by default, and kind of guessing our way through it. I see that the women who really get what they want have developed a sense of skill when it comes to relating. And I want to encourage all of the listeners to keep fine-tuning that skill. Keep learning. Stay curious. Do your practice. That's when sex and love and dating gets really fun.
So good. Now, how can people find you?
People can find me through my website at evaclay.com. That's EVACLAY.com.
Great. And do you have anything coming up, or do you offer workshops or?
Yes, I do. So, excuse me, in addition to coaching and counseling, which I do year round, I have a quarterly course coming up here in Los Angeles. If you're in the LA area, please check it out. It's called The Path to Pleasure. And this is a 7-week course. It's live in-person course on the mind-body science of feminine sexual awakening.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah. And you can find more information on that on my website as well.
Okay. And we always wrap up with just 3 quick questions that I ask all of my guests. And let's see. So for you, let's see. The first one is, what do you wear to bed?
I like my leopard print jammies.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I love a good pair of fuzzy jammies.
And what is one of your biggest indulgences?
There's so many. I love sunsets. Call that an indulgence. I watch the sunset every day. In terms of naughty indulgences, well, what's appropriate to say on your program?
Anything. You really can.
Good. I love to indulge in worship of my partner's body. And we have a wonderful time just exchanging worship of each other and our sexuality and of our bodies. And I think it's a really important part of bonding and relating and keeping a long-term relationship fresh and exciting.
Oh, I agree. And what is currently at your bedside right now?
Well, a couple different books, but one of them is Vagina by Naomi Wolf. It's one of my favorite reads.
Okay.
Read it over and over again. And then I have The Art of Sexual Magic, Margot Anand, a classic.
Oh, nice. How did you meet your current partner?
We met randomly in a rideshare on our way to a concert. Yeah. And what's interesting is that I didn't feel chemistry with him right from the beginning. In fact, our first couple of dates were pretty hilarious, actually. They were disastrous. And it took a while until I really fell in love with him. So I'm a case that I always like to make about creating chemistry, that it really is something that we can engineer, something we can architect, if we're coming from willingness and an open heart and staying curious about the process of creating chemistry, the process of creating chemistry through polarity. And it wasn't, a few months later after we met, I fell head over heels in love.
And was that after, did you see him a lot and it sort of grew, or did you just see him occasionally and it grew?
I saw him occasionally and it grew. Yeah. It grew because I was at a point in my sexual and relational maturity where I wasn't dating by default. I wasn't dating based on, this immediate spark in chemistry. I was dating from discernment, meaning, does this man have the ingredients that I know is needed to create a healthy partnership?
Right.
And he had those ingredients. And the chemistry and the attraction came because of that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so did it take a while for you to like kiss him or want to kiss him? Or were you kind of like initially like, no, I'm not really feeling this guy physically?
Yeah, I wasn't really that drawn to kiss him, to be honest, from the beginning. I mean, I wasn't not drawn, but I was indifferent. I was
Okay.
kind of, I was indifferent.
Okay.
Um, but I'll say what I did is that I kept an open mind
Okay.
and I stayed curious. And even after the first couple of dates, I was like, okay, write him off. I was like, scratch him off the list. There's nothing there. He wasn't right for me. And he did keep persisting. And, the difference with my partner is that he was just out of a very long marriage, and he's also a father. So he's got a lot of old-fashioned values, and he's also not American. He's European. So he still preserves some sense of that old school masculinity. And, he didn't give up on me. He didn't. And he kept pursuing me, and he convinced me to keep giving him another chance and another chance. And he wouldn't let me go. And eventually he did. He won me.
How long did that take?
Yeah, a couple months.
12 months? Okay.
Yeah.
And you guys have been together now for how long?
3 years.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. How long was your whole dating scene?
5 years.
Okay.
It was 5 long, hard years. No, I feel like at the end of that term, I finally got how to date. And then I did a lot of work with myself and with some really powerful teachers for a couple of years. And I've been studying and practicing Tantra throughout all that time as well. And Tantra informed the way that I dated. And it finally got fun because I stopped getting overly hooked or overly attached to the men I was encountering.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of just resigned myself to live this way the rest of my life, like having lovers, some lovers deeper than other lovers, but spending a lot of time on my own, having a great business, having a great life. And I was really happy and I was really satisfied. And of course, that's when he came along.
So great. So great. Well, Eva, this has been really such an enlightening, awesome conversation. Thank you so much for just sharing your knowledge and for everything that you do for women. Just, my podcast is all about empowering women on many, many levels. And I really love everything that you're doing. And please, let's stay connected.
Absolutely, Margaret. And likewise, thank you for having me on. And I hope that this has been a service to your listeners.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And for me, I'll have to keep you posted on on how it all goes.
Please do. Yeah.
We'll have a beautiful week and we'll talk soon. Well, I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Eva and myself. It was so much fun. I do have to listen to this episode again because there was just so much wisdom in it. So to learn more about Eva and for all the show notes, head on over to margaretromero.com/episode 36. And if you are interested in learning a little bit more about me and my somewhat daily activities, head on over to Instagram at Margaret Romero as well. All for now. Have the most beautiful week. Love to you all. Take good care.